This is Mike Edwards, and welcome to the Asset Optics Quick Start Learning Series. In today's session, we are going to cover stock item purchasing and more specifically how to automatically create purchase orders based upon the minimum stocking quantities for a part. We will have two learning objectives. One, how to set up a part for automatic stock replenishment purchasing, and two, how to create the replenishment purchase order based upon those minimum stocking quantities for that particular part. Setting up the part for automatic stock replenishment processing is very straightforward. In addition to the standard items that you just set up for inventory management, you just need to ensure that you have a primary vendor and a purchase price, as well as you define a minimum stock quantity for the part. Creating the purchase order is equally as straightforward. You will click on the Parts tab, select a view, in this case Parts to Reorder view, select the candidate parts from the list view, click on the Create POs command button to create a purchase requisition, and then review and approve the requisition. So let's get started by taking a look at the part setup. I will navigate to a candidate part, and in this situation we're going to go take a look at this belt, this 3L480 belt. You'll notice that the important information relative to the belt that we need to specify is the preferred vendor, and optionally you can specify the preferred vendor part number. You also need to specify a purchase price. Now this purchase price is in the purchase unit of measure. As you may have earlier learned, the purchase unit of measure and the stock unit of measure for a part do not have to be the same. In this example, they are both in eaches. However, if you stock in eaches and purchase in a box, then the purchase pack quantity would specify how many in that box. So again, the purchase price is based upon the purchase unit of measure. So, to recap, the important things in addition are the preferred vendor, the purchase price, and the minimum stocking quantity. The replenishment algorithm to automatically determine how many need to be purchased are based on taking the on-hand quantity, and from that we then subtract the open commit quantity. The open commit quantity represents the quantity of that part that are on work orders that are open and committed but not yet issued. And our minimum quantity is 3. But what if our minimum quantity were 6? So let's just change that minimum quantity to 6 so that we can see how this would calculate. Now our minimum quantity is 6 and we only have 5 on hand. There are none that are already on order, 0. Thus the system is calculating that we need to purchase 1 to replenish. So now let's take a moment and let's go through the actual process. First, we will click on the Parts tab and we will select a view. There is a standard view called Parts to Reorder. However, you may optionally create additional views with criteria necessary, and you can filter by storeroom or a number of other attributes if you will. So I'm going to click Go, and what is returned in this list is the total number of part records that are meeting the automatic replenishment criteria. And if we look here, we have 656 total stock item records that need to be purchased. I am going to selectively choose a small number of these records, and I'm going to choose 1, 2, 3 records. And if we'll take a look here, all of these records are contained in storeroom number 1, and they all have the same preferred vendor. Thus, there will be just one purchase order created for this Granger Norcross branch to replenish. If I were to select this record and add McMaster Car to it, there would be two purchase requisitions created. A purchase requisition is created for every preferred vendor storeroom permutation. So we're going to deselect this and we're just going to create one purchase requisition. You click on the Generate POs command button, select OK. You'll get a confirmation that it was submitted, and then when the page comes back and refreshes, the purchase requisition has been created. If we click on the Purchase Requisitions tab, we can change the view to All Purchase Requisitions, and we can see that this purchase requisition right here, created on this date 8/16 to Granger Norcross Branch, PO number 127, is the one that we just created. We can see that there are 3 part lines here. Now, despite the fact that it said Create POs on the command button, it actually creates a purchase requisition, which would then subsequently be routed for an approval. You may review the purchase requisition, change the order quantity. You could update any of the pricing by calling the vendor, and then you can submit for an approval. This is using standard Salesforce approval processing. And I'm just going to go down and I'm going to self-approve. I could enter a comment, but I'm going to pass that over and hit approve. This purchase requisition is now approved and it has been converted into a purchase order. When I call and place the vendor and provide them with the purchase order number and all of the details and place the order, I then place the order into a released status. Once the purchase order has been released, and a purchase order can go into the release status once and only once, there are validation rules on the status field that ensure that that happens. Once it goes to a release status, then all of the parts are ordered. So if we click on this part, we can go see what is the purchase order line that was generated. And if we'll remember that we're on PO number 127, I'll click onto this part and we can scroll down into the part transaction records and we see that there's an order adjustment for 2, and it is this purchase order number 127. So we're going to click back to this purchase order 127. In an earlier video we had seen how to do individual line item receiving, but in this case I'm going to say that the vendor shipped the order in full. So I'm going to select all 3 lines and say receive open quantity, and then I'm going to receive it. And of course we'll notice that once I've received, the purchase order status automatically progresses up to an in progress status. If we go take a look at this part, same part that we looked at before, we can go here and we could see that this was the first transaction, was the order, and we can see that we now have a receipt transaction for a quantity of 2, and the on-hand quantity for this item has subsequently increased. We'll go back to this purchase order, and now that it's been received in full, we will change the status to completed. Again, there were 2 specific learning objectives that you had. That is, how to set up a part for automatic stock replenishment purchasing, and 2, how to automatically create the replenishment purchase order. Thank you.